So what we know about feeding is that's not a behavioral response of like, I'm just going to be picky because I want some control here. It's really about a skill that kids need to learn. And if they haven't learned it, it's really hard to play catch up on those skills without some intervention.
I want to talk a lot more about these skills because I think there are some assumptions that most of us make about eating that may or may not be correct and may be adding to the stress on the parent side that they are experiencing. Can you guys talk? Yeah, I mean, like Nicole, this idea of like eating's a skill that you learn does not compute for a lot of us, right? Because babies, they just know how to suck on, the bottle, or they just know how to breastfeed, right? Can you guys kind of like help us understand that that's not necessarily the way it goes?
Yeah, so as babies, we have a reflex that, causes us to root, it causes us to suck. And that's really, those reflexes are really there for the first few months of life. But around 6 months of age, those reflexes start to go away and eating becomes more of a volitional skill rather than a reflexive skill. And so those early months, we're taking even though it's reflexive, we're taking those opportunities to learn about eating, learn how to eat. And then 6 months on, it's really about, the volitional skill and the skills that we've developed up until that point. And so even at 6 months, you might start to see some refusals when kids are starting to transition because those reflexes have really start to drop away. And we're really thinking about, do I want to do this or not? Have I had good experiences with eating? Has it been pleasurable or has it been painful and uncomfortable? And I've kind of decided eating isn't really fun for me and I don't really enjoy it. Um, so we see kids who have difficulties eating, from a really young age. And if they don't, like Nicole was saying, if they don't develop those skills, then it can become a lifelong problem.
Can we take a look at some of these specific skill areas, right? Because you mentioned the word volition, which I think is exactly right. Like so many of our other reflexes that we think about that babies come with, it's kind of hardwiring for motor patterns that we then, as we develop, we start to gain more volitional control, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And I was thinking as you were talking, it made me think about a lot of things, motor skills. And I would love to hear you guys talk about that. You talked about pain or discomfort, Joelle, and that made me think about sensory experiences and how that might play in. And I'm imagining an awareness of the body, first to figure out how do I eat, like for motor planning, maybe, but also that interoceptive awareness of, am I hungry?
Yeah, I mean, so thinking about all those pieces, we know eating is really complex. There's lots of skills that go into it. And I think one of the common thoughts is that, oh, well, if you're hungry enough, you'll eat. And that's not true. There's so many skills that go into it. So when we think about, our ability to eat, if you're not able to hold yourself up in a chair to eat, I mean, imagine trying to eat lying down all the time if you didn't have the muscle control. That makes it really hard. Even if you try to drink water laying down, there's this fear of like, oh man, is this going to be safe? And so if that's the feeling a kid has at the table because they don't have the muscle strength to hold themselves up, to keep a stable posture, to be able to chew and swallow foods, then feeding can be scary. And we'll see some kids that have, a previous choking episode or something, or even like a reflux piece where eating has caused them pain. And so there's an avoidance of food of like, hey, my body's told me that this isn't comfortable and this impacts my ability to breathe, which is first and foremost our body's response, right? It's not about eating is not our first priority. It's about getting air to breathe. And so if feeding is going to get in the way of breathing, then our bodies are like, nope, we can go without. So it's not an intuitive thing that people are like, oh yeah, they'll just eat when they're hungry. There's a lot of pieces that go into that.